Mr. Boucher is not here yet, just so you know, Mayor Pennell.
Yeah, I saw that, or didn't see that.
I have confirmed he's coming, though, so.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We can get some other stuff out of the way before Mr. Boucher logs in. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. First, I'm going to take attendance. Councillor Cross, are you present?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Present.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Present.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any written disclosure of pecuniary conflict of interest? Councillor Cross?
No, I don't.
Councillor Maxwell?
No, I don't.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is petitions and delegations, of which we have none. Next item on the agenda was reports from municipal officers. We had one listed from Antoine Boucher, municipal engineer. Doesn't appear that he's here yet. Oh, I see him. There he is. Hello, Mr. Boucher.
Hello.
You're basically up. You're the next item on the agenda. If you'd like to proceed, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, members of council. And I thank you for having me tonight. So today's presentation for me is in regards to Stewart's Road. And there was a project that we looked at the condition of the road. And I see from this that everybody in council received the report.
Yes.
Okay, and you have it in front. So I'm just trying to reopen a document. Sorry for my computer at the same time as we're presenting. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a synopsis of the report. So the report's kind of broken down into a few categories. It talks about a little bit of the background. So the background is like, you know, who resides, how many lots are on the road, how many entrances, and it talks about basically the condition of the road as it is. There's a second reference that refers to present practice. So the way that this road is being dealt with at the moment, who's using it, and the way it's composed. So it's composed of a few lots, some that are accessing Stewart's Road on its own, some that have access to Homestead as well, which is the nearest intersection. There is some vacant land as well, and there's really two components. If we look at Stewart's, there's two components. That's one of the main important part of the report, is that there's a section that is to the north, and that section is really in line with concession 2. And then we have the section to the south, which is also in line with concession 1. There's a diagram that was provided at the end of the report, and I refer to this quite extensively. So the first page that kind of provides the map of the area is very critical. And the first section that's in line with concession 2, that's the section that is seasonally maintained, which means it's maintained in the summertime, but not in the winter months. And then there's a section that is along concession 1, further south of the driveway located at 183 Stewart's Road. And then the south section is really a section that is considered private at the moment. So the report will refer to those two sections. As we go along, there's a few things to be discussed in the report. There's a talk about what is the potential for liability? So this is something that is to be discussed given the properties of the road in itself and the way that it's constructed. It's really a discussion with the insurance provider to have a bit of a follow-up on that, and they would be able to, given the background of the report, provide that information. So it's a question of answering the potential for liability. When we look at condition of an existing road and potential for improvement, there's always three alternatives that we need to consider. It might sound funny at times, but it's really constructed in three ways. So we have the option one, which is we do nothing. We have option two, which is we close the road. And then we have option three, which is basically we upgrade the road to municipal standards. So this report talks about those three aspects, and the do nothing is keeping everything status quo, which means that the municipality will continue to operate as they have been doing in the past. And there's no improvements that are done, and every resident are responsible for their own section. So really status quo with no changes. There's the part that simply because it is an option, we have to bring it up as a discussion. It's closing Stewart's Road, but obviously that's not a popular option, and it's an option that would lead to potential claims and everything because you're landlocking some resident. So it's definitely not recommended, but it is an option. The third is really talking about the upgrade. So the upgrade of Stewart's Road, if it was to be transferred as a yearly maintained road, one of the issue is the existing width of the road. And it's not so much that it's too narrow for a vehicle to go by, but it's at times too narrow if you have a full winter maintenance. So a full winter maintenance, although it's a low traffic, through Ontario requires like a certain width. So when you have a plow coming in one way and then a vehicle that's going to be encountering that same plow, there's kind of a need of a certain width. So the way that I thought it was one of the best approach of addressing the municipal standard would be to look at this road and recognize, like through Ministry of Transportation standards, like what would be an acceptable narrowest width, so that if we look at the existing width of approximately 5.5 meters, by how much should we increase it to be within guidelines? So in order to do that, you've got to kind of say, okay, what are the minimum standards that we can apply? So the minimum speed design of a road is a 50 kilometers per hour, and then it goes, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, and so forth. But the minimum design speed is a 50. For 50 kilometers per hour, there's certain widths of lanes that are provided, and then there's some assumptions that have to be made on the shoulders, which means, is this a road we want to pave over the next 20 years? In this case, I would say that the answer is it's not really scheduled as a road that will become like a paved road in the next 20 years. So there's a bit of room to reduce the width of a shoulder, and then there's a need of a rounding. So when we add the minimum requirements for what would be a 50 kilometer design speed, and in theory it's 10 over the posted. So what it means is that in relatively speaking, a 50 design means that it should be posted at 40. So if that was the minimum, we are looking at a geometric width of 7.5 meters, and the present width that was taken while there was still snow on site, and we took a couple of different measurements, was averaging about a 5.5 meters. It was a little narrower in some places where we had some culverts, but I would say that the average was about 5.5. So really what it means is that in order to bring this road to the minimum standard, they would have to increase in width by about 2 meters. The next question is perhaps like, what is the cost associated to this? So there was some assumptions that were made. provided some numbers, but the assumptions made were that, you know, this work would be carried out by a contractor. So estimations were based on that. And we can almost break down in three categories. There's a first category that requires some survey work. There's a second category that requires a bit of design. Within the first category, some survey, some design, and some inspection. The overall cost of that is broken down in about 16,500. There's a component that's flexible with the survey work. It depends how much in depth we go. So this number that was provided was assuming that there's going to be the need to create a cul-de-sac. There's going to be the need that perhaps some areas where the road may be a little too much on private land, there may be some encroachment, there may be the need to transfer some lands back. So the cost estimate for the survey and the design, and it was really based on the worst case scenario. So there may be a bit of saving on that. There's also an inspection that was made, the general inspection of the culverts. So there's 4 culverts that vary between, I think they're 2 foot and 450 mils. And basically there's going to be a need of an extension. With first discussion with operations, it was that extension would be good to warrant like a replacement of the culverts. So in this case, there's a value that was provided for if we were to replace the culverts and also extend them. The third item is relevant to a widening of 2 meters, but a widening that is mostly along the section, if you recall the diagram, that's along the concession 2. So it's the first 1,000 meters. And that's the section that we were considering before the bridge. That's the section that at this moment that would be considered, you know, to be improved. So it's not the entirety of the road. The entirety of the road is about 1.83 kilometers, but it's really the first portion, which is shy of 1,000 meters. Ideally, there's going to be the need of a cul-de-sac. The need of a cul-de-sac should, in theory, if we are able to, be part physically within the first segment or within concession 2. It would be preferable not to encroach to the south section, but that's something that the design will eventually, the survey work and the design will be able to provide further details as to that. So essentially there's brushing, stripping, granulars, and ditching, because again, if you widen, there's need of ditching to shift away. The section that is further north would be very likely shifting towards the west side. And as you go down, further down, and then the road starts to curve, there's possibility of widening both sides, but then it might be preferred to widen towards the east side. There's always an item of contingency that we carry, so that's the 4th item. Nothing really specifically geared towards that item, but it's a 10% contingency. So that's how we broke down the estimate and gave the overall figure at the end for every component. The next item talks about cost recovery. Cost recovery is significant in this case. So there's a few alternatives that could be done. The funding could be done as a local improvement. Again, local improvement means that there's special charges that needs to be applied to every lot. Most times it's based on the frontage, but there's some variance to that as well, because you got to kind of understand the benefit of who and how does it structure the benefit. So if that was a discussion on the local improvement approach, there's further study to be done. Again, the municipality may fund the work through capital budget. That's a capital development, but there's other needs for the municipality and other priorities. So that's where it becomes challenging on their capital budget. Could be a combination of two, of the two of those. The next section of the report really goes further in depth about and understanding better the local improvement and the structure of it. So it's just very in detail for that. And in the report, the way I was looking at the project and trying to understand what would be best, there's some unknowns. There's some unknowns about the physical location of the road. Is it sitting too much to one side or to the other? The dimensions that we took were, again, taken while there was snow on site. But a detailed survey would really say, is it really 2 meters? Is it 1.6, the true average? So the widening that I'm referring to, again, if we were to say that the actual true number as a not just an average, but as the real width is somewhat under 2 meters, well, then the estimate would be reduced. If it was to be above, well, then the estimate would be increased. So that would be good information to look at. The decision ultimately of where could a turnaround be located, that's again very important, and that could be developed and created ultimately as you could look at it as a severance in a sense, but that would be an outcome of the survey work and the design. So those are kind of the big part of the recommendation. There's some other sub items. I mentioned something about a 1 foot reserve in the interim, which we can go into further details, but I might answer some questions to that. The report refers to this. A better evaluation of the culverts, obviously, and again, a decision whether or not like those should be implemented in advance or if they can just sit as it is. And there's a further discussion about the Stewart's Bridge. The last page of the report provides some images of the bridge. And I think it's important for council to just understand that this bridge is got some very strong abutments, some really good concrete abutment on both sides, but it does have timber girders and then a deck that's in timber as well. So there's limitations as to its capacity, so it may warrant an evaluation of a weight limit, and that could be accepted by bylaw, and it could be posted as well. The weight limit, again, in this case, could be warranted, especially if there was to be an improvement up to prior to the bridge, because it may invite some heavier vehicles to come in, and posting might be very, very important. There's some further numbers that gives you that the BCI of the bridge when we did the inspection for its condition is a 75 value, which means that it's like a 75% score, if you look at it that way. Below a certain threshold, it needs to be redone. But then again, it would be the timber and the deck, because the base or the foundation is nice and strong. And then it gives you some other figures about, what if we were to replace based on MTO approved numbers through the OSIM inspection, very standardized based on width and length. So very standardized costs. If you were to replace 100% of the existing geometry, like the dollar value of what it would be, around 200 and some. If you were to replace and then make it standard, so make it a full 2-lane, then it's obviously more money. There's some rehabilitation suggestions that were highlighted under the OSIM, and it means that the barrier and the barrier improvement and guide rails were kind of evaluated at a certain dollar value. So essentially, that's the report, and I suppose I should leave it to council and then leave it open for questions.
Okay, thank you. Would you have any questions, Councillor Cross?
I definitely was wondering why the bridge was added to the report, and he kind of clarified that because of potential more usage with bigger vehicles. So where the turnaround is right now, is that not satisfactory for where it is?
if you want to say like which one would be satisfactory or what? Just, I didn't follow exactly.
Well, I believe that there's a turnaround that was built not too long ago down Stewart's Road.
Oh, correct.
And from this report, I'm perceiving that it's not adequate.
So, and that's a good point. It's not necessary that it's not adequate. It's that, I mean, the preferred location for the turnaround is somewhat physically where it is. The limitation, if you think of it that way, if you have a road allowance, the road allowance being 66 feet or 20 meters, from center line of road, we have 33 meters, 33 feet both sides typically. What happens when we are looking at the turnaround as such, it's wider than a typical road allowance. It would be wider than 66 feet. So it may be fine in its location. It may be, typically it's about a 16-meter radius that you're trying to achieve. So it may need some widening as well, but at the same time, it's also physically, if it's not on the municipal land, because it may be coming out of the road allowance. So the survey work will define that. There's a generic approach that in the estimate that, I mean, the estimate doesn't provide a very detailed estimate, but there was a generic approach to say that, you know, in average, a municipal road should be comprised of 6 inches of granular A on the finished product. And in this case, we wanted to give credit to the road because there is some good material that's present on site. And it was a question of evaluating, okay, so what would be acceptable as an additional lift. So there's also like a little bit of a gravel lift that would be applied throughout. The section that be widened would be a full 6 inches of gravel, but the existing would probably receive about an average of 3 inches in average. So we kind of credited a good 3 inches of existing gravel being acceptable. So there's a bit of money going towards the turnaround in that sense.
Thank you.
Is that all, Councillor Cross?
Yes, for now.
Councillor Maxwell, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you for that report. It was quite interesting. Looking at this road has been, I'm not sure if this is the area to discuss or not, but it's used by a lot of vehicles already. It's used by the mail delivery and services, delivery services, and school bus has been wanting to go down there, but there's some problems that it can't right now, the condition of the road. And would it be reasonable to assume this road, to start maintaining it and to build it up to this standard over a period of years, say 4 or 5 years? Would that make sense to do that? I just think it might be more affordable for us as a small community if we could gradually bring it up instead of, it sounds like we have to do this whole project, close the road, then do this project, then you can open the road once it is to that standard. Would it be reasonable to start maintaining the road immediately and bring it up to these standards as recommended?
It's an excellent question. There's a few challenges when we're looking at, you know, first of all, for this road, it's very important to say that, you know, would we agree to say that the first portion is the one that we're looking at, because there's not really a lot of usage on the second, and then ultimately there's going to be a decision made at one point to change. It's really the classification of the road. So if we decide to change the classification of the road, the report kind of refers to the fact that yes, we need to meet certain geometric standards, because what happens is ultimately if there was a new development built, we would expect to be that new development is built to a certain standard. The one question is under the section where it talks about potential for liability. That question was kind of put on the report as, you know, it is an ask that needs to be raised for the insurance provider, and see if they would, you know, how do they really answer that question? because ultimately speaking, we can't really deny liability if there's a case where the road is accepted and there's an incident of some sort. With the very low speed, I can say with a high level of certainty that it would not be like a fatal accident. I think if there was something, it would be property damage, or it would be vehicle that basically there's a property damage. But again, the liability for us as a good practice is that we want to bring things to a certain standard. So the survey in this case ultimately would provide further guidelines as to, is there a more specific section that is in general actually a bit wider than the measurements we took? Is it potentially not the same cost as what we were providing as an example? But from like as a professional engineer, I would say that the answer is like, bringing the road to the standard that is set as the minimum acceptable standard for the municipality is important. So I think that's why there's that section further down that really refers to, what could be a minimal width. And if the municipality was willing to accept that as a standard and not necessarily to go below that standard, I think it would be a better practice. It would be my recommendation. It's just very difficult to say that, legally, if you have a road in the province of Ontario, you cannot have a road that's less than 6 meters. So in theory, someone may say, well, it's only 6 meters. I say 7.5, so I'm already wider than that because I've had shoulders and so forth. So is it possible to go narrower? It might be, and it might be in a way that for the low traffic, it might be safe. But as an opinion, professionally, I would have to default back to saying that, the minimum width that is provided in the report should be a good practice to follow that guideline.
Good, thank you. So the standard classification on that. So right now, what is the classification on right now? It's so in order for us to change that standard of the classification of that road, could we do that in our municipality? Can we? I'm not sure if we can classify that or not as
There's another approach as well. I didn't talk about the road classification. The road classification is it's really a relationship of the posted speed and the amount of traffic daily. In this case, it would, regardless of the development, I believe it would remain like a class 6 road. A class 1 is like a 4-lane highway. A class 2 would be a 2-lane typical highway, Highway 17 and so forth. Class 3s are the sections that you may have that are posted around the 80 kilometers per hour that are main collectors. And then it starts dropping 4, 5, 6. But in this case, I believe because it's such a low speed and such a low amount of traffic, if we talk classifications, it's very likely a class 6.
I think that was good news that you mentioned about the bridge too being 75%. I consider that a pass, I guess. Now I think that the area we're talking about is probably north of the bridge, and I don't think we were considering going anywhere past that bridge right now. And I think we'd probably restrict access to that bridge if we were to open up the road or do something like that. Would it be possible to maybe put a barrier in front of that bridge so that it's reduced to through traffic? Or I'm just thinking, I think it's used by ATVs and some traffic like that, but would it be beneficial for us to keep main traffic off of that bridge?
Yeah, that's a very good point, which ultimately a bit of a design would provide that. It would be very well posted that, beyond that point, beyond the turnaround, that it would be basically, a private road, maintained or used at your own risk. And there could be also the weight limit that could be posted right there, and also like a width of the bridge in itself. So those would be good information to post at the turnaround. One thing that's important to understand is that the last year-round property located at 183 Stewarts is actually physically sitting on concession 11, but the driveway in itself, it comes in and the turnaround is almost sitting on the edge of the two of the line separating the concession 1 and 2, which is right at the boundary. But that entrance is located on lot 11. The bridge is further south, as you mentioned, and it's actually completely 100% on the concession 1. So there's a bit of a distance as well. So it's very easily done to provide drivers a very good information, so that you're not encouraging traffic to continue.
So you'd recommend us going ahead with the first step? You think that would the first step be more of an investigation step before we go on to actually taking on as a project? Would that make sense? Or I guess once we're in on that first the first step of the surveying and the inspection, there would be we could decide after that whether we go forward or not, or is that first step necessary? I guess it probably would be the foundation of the whole project.
The way I see it, the going out and surveying in further details, getting some good cross sections along, identifying like whether or not if we were to extend 2 meters somewhere, like the ditches and so forth, are we encroaching properties? Like there's not just the ditch, but there's a back face of a ditch. Like, are we going to start like pulling fences and things like that? So we can go out there with measuring tape and just measure a couple of random locations, but a survey would not only that, but it would do some search about, you know, the ownership of all the sections that is forced. I'm talking about the land concession, but then there's a section that's forced. So it would refer like to ownership, potential encroachments, the physical location of the turnaround as it is. Is there a full ownership of the properties? So it would really address all this, and it would provide like an actual very detailed width of the existing road. So that will eventually also provide like a further detailed, more, this is a bit of a rough estimate, but it would be a more detailed estimate. The way I'm looking at it is that there's some unknowns and there's some questions. So the recommendation is, I think, the best way to address those questions and to actually have answers about, in fact, we are dealing with this and that. And then we can have a very detailed list of potential concerns. Right now, they're mentioned, but we don't really know if they are concerns and those. So that's why the recommendation would be to do the first step first. And a nice survey would really define the location physically. It might pick up some other information we didn't know.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Heather, do you have any questions?
Well, yes, I do. You referred to our insurance not covering that road. We have other class 5 and 6 roads in our township that our insurance does cover and is aware of. So that to me is not a concern. What would happen if we adopted as a full-time road? To follow your advice, do what we have to do properly, but adopt it as a full-time road. In the meantime, with your safety measures in place, lower the speed limit, 1 lane, and then this way we can move forward to do a perfect job. Would that be wise?
So there's a few fold questions. So the first part, the classification of class 6. Just to clarify that the class 6, for the insurance purposes, they don't really necessarily look at, you know, is it a class 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, but it's more to the fact that it's a seasonally maintained road. So it's more to that aspect of it. And in this particular case, it's more towards the winter time. You know, what happens in the winter if there's like in this case, there may be some snow plowing provided by the local resident. Is it really sanded or not? So is there an icy condition one day? Like, so what are the, so those are the, that's the question I was kind of gearing towards.
Okay, so if we, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, so so if we adopt it as road and we start to maintain it, then we know that it's sanded and plowed, right? And we can move forward.
That's correct. Ultimately speaking, if the decision, you know, we have different, like 3 options. One, status quo. The second one, which is basically close the road, which doesn't make sense, but that's an option. We have to say, even though it's an option, it's not a good one. And then the third one, which is to upgrade to standard. And if it was upgraded to standard, how do we pay the cost recovery? Like, so if the winter maintenance was to be provided, one of the issues is if you have to appreciate the width of the snow plow with the blade and then the wing on the side, and even just that piece of equipment on its own, it's taking a good footprint of the road as it is. So even though it's a very low risk, because there's not going to be a lot of traffic, you'd have to come up with, how do we formulate that, you know, if my plow's coming in and there's another vehicle that's incoming against, like in the other opposite direction, do we give a condition that they have to back out all the way until, because at one point with the existing width, it's very, very challenging for 2 vehicles to meet side by side. So essentially, that's one of the challenges.
I have a solution to that immediately. It's not even a kilometer, so I would just close the road while it's being plowed. We close roads all the time. Put a closed road, plow it, get out. We can make this safe, right?
It's complex. Anything can be done, but it's complex. Like, for instance, if I do, and again, there's not a lot of traffic on this road, but one of the challenges that we have, say we do a construction road and we're paving a section. So, you know, the crew comes in, we pave a section, it's 1 kilometer long, and we want to have a shuttle service, which means that there's a transport, like a pickup truck that, you know, takes the line of vehicles that are waiting and brings them to the other side and so forth. But every so often there's a car that all of a sudden gets in between, and I'm talking about a higher class road. There's a car that gets in between and drives opposite to traffic, and we say, where is this coming from? So there's always the in-between entrances. So again, in this case, there's not a lot of entrances. So you make, you know, I'm thinking for municipal staff with the standard operation and you know, the way we operate, it's a complex task to specifically go in advance of, you know, put signs, close, and then do the operation, and then, because again, that would be in the winter months. And in the winter months, I would imagine that when the plow is plowing, that every staff is busy already doing winter operation. So that's why I would say the recommendation that if you're taking the road and assuming responsibility of it, the provincial standards sets right now are that we should meet certain requirements, and that's what the report brings to the table for discussion.
Thank you.
Anything further, Heather?
No, thank you.
Sandy, one more question?
I was curious to know why there may not have been an option of turning the road private or leasing the road. I've been in many of municipalities where the municipality takes care of the main roads and basically more cottage country, but after they get off the main road, it's up to the people that live on that road to keep it up to, you know, the snow plowing or adding gravel or even grading it. And that wasn't one of the options on your list.
So if you refer back to the first paragraph on top of page 2, you'll see the reference of you know, of what is this road called, and it's really It's defined as a highway already through the Section 26 of Municipal Act, simply because of its location. And again, we're going back to the roots of the foundation of the country when we're talking about, you know, lots and concessions. So something that was made by Crown surveyors, it's going back to before all of our times. But essentially, because of the physical location, if there was another section of a road that was built and developed, but it was in the middle of a lot, or it was not physically within that portion, it would probably be able to deal with it in a different approach as well. But in this case, it falls as what is defined as a highway. And also, if we go back and we some searches, it's never, I don't believe it's something that was ever closed. So it's made under the assumption that the municipality never closed that concession. So that's why it's discussed of it as such. So you have to kind of go back and say, you know, physically it is between those lots within that concession. So it's something that has to be completely closed in a sense. And you can see that in some areas that are simply, there's no road. There's a lot of concessions in the municipality that have no road. And sometimes you may have that on the table being asked, you know, we'd like to join the two lots together and, you know, make the farm bigger, or there may be some other specific needs or ask. And then someone may come in and say, can we close that because there's not going to be a municipal need for it? And there's a lot of concessions within the municipality that are not being used. Like, for instance, directly north of Homestead Road is also, there's also a concession, but there's no road there. So if there was a talk of closing something, that one could be considered as, you know, that is a portion of land that if the municipality said, well, we don't deem it as any future use for us, so we're willing to close it. And that's when it would be closed. So a little complicated, but all that to say that you go back to the foundation of physically where it sits, and physically it sits within that concession.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. Dan?
Just a quick question. How old is the bridge? You know?
Good question. If I was to dig down in the OSIM report, which was prepared just recently, the first page of the OSIM report, for that report, not the OSIM report, but the bridge section, the first page provides like a detailed background of the bridge itself. If I was to guess, I would say 1920. That would be a guess. I would just apply to that. Now, maybe there's no betting going on, but the report would say if it's around that. But typically speaking, it would make sense that it's around the era of the 1920s, because at the time we saw a lot of those structures that were constructed, and the way that the province was structured was different. Like it wasn't even called the Ministry of Transportation, but I forget the name of that governmental kind of entity. But they were the ones that were mostly looking after those structures. And that's a typical build. The foundation of it is.
Interesting.
Any other questions, Heather?
No, apparently Sandy does.
This is your
Well, if
last
you have
question.
one, go ahead.
Well, the road has been in existence. It's called Stewart's Road because there used to be a Stewart's Farm there eons ago. And we used to go swimming down there all the time. So I think that we need to adopt the road. I do want to take your advice. It's a long time coming, but I get it. Okay. Thanks. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. All right, I guess that's all then. Thank you, Mr. Boucher, for your report. It was nice. Thank you for coming out. It was nice to hear from you and be able to ask you questions, get a little bit more clearance on what's happening with that road and what we need to do to move forward. So thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And have a great continuity of the council meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is a report from Chris Wally, Road Superintendent.
Good evening, thank you.
Hi.
In early April, we finished digging out the culvert ends and finished plowing out the ditches with the backhoe and the grader on our yearly maintained roads. Item number 2, on Thursday, March 11th, it turned very mild during the day. It was plus 17 with winds up to 60 kilometers per hour. By 1 p.m., Peddlers Drive west of Bruley Road was starting to flood across the road, and the water was rising fast. Although traffic was still able to get through, the surface of the road was starting to wash away. We decided the only way to keep Peddlers Drive open was to install a new cross culvert on the top of the road and cover it with A-gravel. We reduced the traffic down to 1 lane with yield to oncoming traffic signs. We then had to set up with flashing lights and marker cones for the night as it was approaching dark. We had several other calls of flooding where the ice had flown downstream and was plugging up the entrance to the cross culverts on Galston Road and Homestead Road. We dealt with the flooding to the best of our ability. I called on the fire department to assist in the traffic control, but unfortunately the fire department was called out to 2 separate structure fires at the same time. We worked on the roads till 9 p.m. that night, and we had every marker cone, every flashing amber beacon and signs out that we had. At 5 a.m. the next morning, we were back out checking the roads again. There was a small washout on Homestead Road on the south side, and we had it repaired by 9 a.m. There was also a few big trees down on Donalds Road and Broadton Road, with a lot of debris and branches on other roads throughout the township. The water level had receded significantly and was back to normal levels by the morning. We then dug out the cross culvert on Peddlers Drive and graded off the 4 loads of gravel that we hauled to cover the culvert. And then we cleaned up the traffic control signs. On Monday, March the 15th, we installed the load restriction sign, and I expect them to be up until around the May 21st, pending weather conditions. We had a few sinkholes at the cross culverts on Homestead. The culverts are lifted by the frost during the winter, which allows the water to wash through under the culvert as the roads thaw out during the spring. The culvert then falls and creates a sinkhole above the culvert. This can happen fairly quickly, as I had graded over the culvert on Homestead Road, and within 2 hours I received a call that the same culvert had fell in, creating a large sinkhole. So I immediately went back with the grader and filled that sinkhole in. On March 23rd, we removed the wing off the grader and attached the windrow eliminator. And we've been grading almost every day, taking care of potholes and frosties. Grading regularly at this time of year helps to dry the surface of the gravel roads and pull out the frost. We have almost completed the sweeping of the winter sand off the main road, hard surface. We just have from the garage to the corner of Galston Road to finish, and we actually finished that today. We try to sweep the sand at each intersection into 1 or 2 piles where we can pick it up with the backhoe. This material then can be hauled to the landfill and is used for cover. I've ordered in and received new brushes for the sweeper and are installed on the sweeper ready to go. I ordered the brushes from Brandt Tractor at a cost of $1,253. I've also ordered in 25 new 70 centimeter marker cones with the Calvin Township lettering on them, along with some more traffic control signs and barricades at a cost of approximately $2,500. So that's all I have for my road report.
Sandy, any questions?
No questions.
Councilor Maxwell, any questions?
It's more of a comment. It looks like you had a very busy month. I think that we really appreciate the fact that you got out there in that storm and kept the roads safe. And I think the residents really appreciate it as well. Thanks for doing that, Chris.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Olmsted?
Yes, thank you. I agree. But do you know why, or know that there's car counters on Adams Road and Homestead Road?
Good question. They put them up 2 days ago, and I assume
Yeah,
it's
so-
the MTO that's doing that for a traffic count. And
I thought that, but I wondered how you're going to grade the roads with that in the way, like some damage.
well, fortunately, they're close to the intersection, and for now, they're probably only going to be up for a week or so, and we can
Okay.
skip over them.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much, Chris.
There you go.
Next item we have on the agenda is Dean Maxwell, our fire chief. Are you there, Dean?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So for the month of March, we had 2 fire calls. 2 of them, the first one was on March 11th. It was a automatic aid for Papineau. We got called out for a garage fire. We went with pumper and pumper PT2 to scene. Papineau was joined by Mattawa as well, because due to it was really close to Mattawa, so they were actually able to hook up to a hydrant there to help fight the fire. We showed up with 5 guys, myself. We were on scene for roughly an hour, where we returned back to the fire hall, and then later on that same day, about 45 minutes later, at 17:50, we were called back out to a structure fire on Papineau Road. There we sent 2 tankers and along with our pumper unit, but was restricted to access to the structure fire, where we actually had the PT1 go in. The road was narrow. We were forced to put chains on to get the truck into the structure, where we fought the fire for 2 hours with Papineau, along with Papineau, and we ended up coming back and just cleaning up our gear and stuff. So it was a pretty busy day. That was the same day Chris was having all the flooding in the township. It was the fire was driven by lots of wind that day. We had strong winds and stuff, so it was quite a challenging fire for us. So for meeting nights on March 4th, we washed the trucks and cleaned the fire halls. On March 11th, we did, the meeting was canceled because of the fire calls that we got called out onto. So that was Thursday night that we got all those calls on. The next meeting was March 18th, where we had to go through all our equipment and just kind of make sure everything's all tuned up. We had to reload all the hose. We had to wash lots of it and get our trucks back into service. On 25th, we actually returned our meetings back to normal, and we debriefed the calls, and then we ran all our power unit. Well, we had all the guys, so we ran everything. For fleet or status report, all trucks run pretty good, and just to we had from the chief's report, we have our FCBA bottles. We've had the first round of them go out, and they've all been tested and they're back in service. I have recently got, right now I have 6 FCBA bottles, which is the last 6 of them, out to be tested, and we're expecting those back any day now. We have applied for some funding through the Ontario Fire Marshal's office. There's some funding to help with training during this COVID crisis. So we have applied for that, and hopefully we will receive some funding for that. So, and besides that, that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Thanks, Dean. Any questions, Councillor Croft?
No questions, just I know you guys worked really hard that night and I'm glad everybody was safe and it all went well. Great job.
Councillor Maxwell?
Now, good job on those two fires. It must have been a stressful night. I was proud to see how everybody did well, and the reports I heard back that they were happy to see Calvin show up. It was nice.
Councillor Olmsted?
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks very much, Dean.
Right, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is Jacob Grove Recreation, Landfill, and Cemetery. Are you with us, Jacob?
Yes, I am. Thank you. So in recreation, we've completed the work on the dock sections, and the docks have actually been installed at the Smith Lake Boat Launch. The lawn equipment has been brought out of storage, and we're beginning to prepare it for the summer grass cutting. The rink lights were turned off on March 25th for the season. The electronics contract has been set up with Electronic Productions Recycling Association, or RPRA. On March 18th, we received the new electronics bins, and we filled 2 of them already with material that was on site. There was a building demolition that was brought to the landfill on March 19th, and on the 22nd, we made an attempt at removing as much of the wood material from it that we could to divert it from going over the edge. Also for landfill, it's not in this report, but the spring cleanup has begun at the landfill this week. For cemetery, we have 1 burial booked for June 5th, and there were no new cases for bylaw in the past month.
That's good, thank you. Any questions for Jacob, Councillor Croft?
I have I'm curious, when they bring in the demolition, there's a fee for that, right?
Yes, there is a tipping fee, and then there's also the fee if they bring in mixed loads with a bunch of divertible materials at the increased rate. We've done that to encourage contractors to sort out the material, or homeowners to sort out the material.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Maxwell?
Thanks, Jacob. That's great news that you're able to get the boat dock in so early this year. I think the people that use Lake will appreciate that. In terms of landfill, how is the report on the single stream cycling coming along?
I've been working on that. At this point, I haven't been able to find a sorting facility within reason of our area. I am still working on it, and I do plan on contacting some of the local municipalities to find out exactly how they do it and who they're using. Right now, I've just been calling some of the facilities.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious too at how Mattawa is doing the single stream recycling. I'm curious as to where that is going. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Olmsted, any questions?
Yeah, just questions. I was at the cemetery on the weekend with my mom. Just wanted to make sure my dad's headstone was there. And I found there was 3 headstones down. What do we typically do about that?
Typically, when a headstone falls down, I believe our bylaw says that we lie it flat to make it safe. So that's normally what we do. If it's a smaller one and we're able to safely stand it back up, we try to do that out of respect for the person that's there.
Yeah.
But some of the larger ones, are depending on the shape the shape that the base is in or the lean that the die has on it already, it's not safe to stand them back up.
I was just didn't
So
know
we'll
what
have
the
to take
policy
a
was
look
on
at
it.
Yeah,
All
I would
right,
have to
thank you.
read the
And then-
bylaw to get the.
Oh, okay, that's just a concern. And then what are we doing with our tires now?
The tires at the landfill.
Yes.
When we get about 200 tires, which we probably have at least that now, I call, I can't remember the name of the company. I believe it used to be A1 Blasting. I'm not sure if it's still the same name. And they come and pick up our tires for us.
Does it cost us anything?
Just the labor of staff to assist or to sort them over there for them.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Jacob. Next item on the agenda is a written report from Shane Conrad, our CDO. Everyone's had a chance to look at that, I guess. I don't know what anyone would be able to answer, but Councillor Cross, do you have any questions regarding it?
I don't.
Councillor Maxwell?
No questions.
Councillor Olmsted?
I just wanted to know what the animal shelter was for. There are 2 animal shelter ones for 160. I don't. Oh. Maybe it's just maybe I misinterpreted it. Maybe I was thinking of a dog house or something, but maybe it's like bigger. That's all.
I don't know if that would be a barn. Would that be a barn?
I don't know.
Table or something? I'm not sure.
I think it'd be, yeah. I suspect it's probably a horse shelter. You know, the roof and the posts in the corner of the field,
Yeah.
you see all those around?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to know what that was.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on, next item on the agenda is reports from committees, and there are none. And then we have our action letters. So the first item is to adopt the minutes of Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021. We have a resolution for that. So we'll need a mover and a seconder in order to do this. So Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Ken?
And Councillor Maxwell, could you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. We have a resolution moved by Councillor Cross, second by Councillor Maxwell, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, March the 23rd, 2021 be hereby adopted and signed as circulated. Is there any discussion on that, Councillor Cross?
Discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, so I want to call for a vote to accept these minutes. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so this resolution is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to adopt the minutes of Thursday, March the 18th. No, March the 16th, 2021. We've got a resolution for that as well. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Olmsted, could you move this one?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know if it was accurate.
Okay. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this
Yes,
one?
I can. Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second that, please?
I can.
Thank you. So we have a resolution moved by Councillor Maxwell, second by Councillor Cross, that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on Tuesday, March the 16th, 2021 be hereby adopted and signed as circulated. Any discussion, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call for a vote that these minutes of council be adopted. Councillor Cross, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is also carried. Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is to adopt the minutes of the council meeting on Thursday, March the 18th, 2021. And I'll need a mover and a seconder for that as well. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Maxwell, could you second this one, please?
Yes, again.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Maxwell, that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on Thursday, March the 18th, 2021 be hereby adopted and signed as circulated. Any discussion? Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
It was a good meeting. No discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote. These minutes be adopted. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Sorry, I just gotta let the dog in.
Councillor Cross?
I said yes.
I didn't hear you. Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you. That resolution is carried. Next item on the agenda is to adopt the council minutes from Tuesday, April 6, 2021. And we should have a resolution for that as well. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this one. Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Olmsted, could you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Cross, seconded by Councillor Olmsted, that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on Tuesday, April 6, 2021 be hereby adopted and signed as circulated. Any discussion, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call a vote that the minutes of the meeting on April 6th be adopted. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is bylaw 2021-010. It's to adopt a council vacancy policy. And I'll read it, or the first page of it anyway. This is adopt a bylaw to adopt a policy for the process of filling a vacant seat on council. And whereas Section 8, 9, and 10 of the Municipal Act 2001 authorized the municipality of Calvin to pass bylaws necessary or desirable for municipal purposes, and in particular paragraphs 1 and 2 of subsection 10, bracket 2, authorized bylaws respecting governance structure of the municipality and its local boards, and the accountability and transparency of the municipality and its operations, and of its local boards and their operation. Now, therefore, the council of the corporation of the municipality of Calvin hereby enacts the following: that the municipality of Calvin municipal council vacancy policy for the process of filling a seat that has become vacant on council be hereby hereto attached as Schedule A, and that this bylaw shall come into full force and effect immediately upon final passing of the same. So it'd be nice to get all 3 readings done tonight so we can move ahead with this, because we only have 60 days to fill the seats. Okay. I need a mover and a seconder, I think, for the first reading. Okay, thank you. 1, 2, 3. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please? The first
Yes,
reading?
I can.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Councillor Cross, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So the first reading is moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Cross. And this is being a bylaw to adopt the policy of processing for the process and filling a vacant seat on council. And this is to be received and read the first time. Is there any discussion on this? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted.
No discussion. It seems straightforward.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call for a vote on the first reading of this to accept it. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So the first reading is carried. So second reading, can I get Councillor Maxwell to move this one, please?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, could you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have the second reading, moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Olmsted, for the bylaw to adopt the policy for the process of filling a vacant seat on council. Is there any discussion on the second reading, Councillor Cross?
No.
Councillor Maxwell?
No. No discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote to adopt the second reading. Okay? Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Second reading is carried.
Mayor
need to
Pennell,
vote.
how do you vote?
Yes?
How do you
Oh,
vote?
yeah, I vote yes. I'm shaking my head at myself. Okay, I don't know if you're going to agree to the third reading or not, but we'll see what happens. I need a mover and a seconder for the third reading. So Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one?
Yes, can.
Okay. And Councillor Cross, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So this is have a third reading moved by Councillor Maxwell, second by Councillor Cross, for this bylaw to adopt the policy for the process of filling a vacant council seat, as reported by committee of the whole, to be read a third time, passed and numbered 2021-010, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any discussion, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Thank you. So can I get a vote on the third reading, please, to accept it? Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So third reading is carried as well. Okay, thank you very much. We had a document in our council package from Expertise for Municipalities, E4M. It was concerning some training and what they termed as a go-forward proposal for the municipality. And we have a resolution that directs the clerk treasurer to sign a letter of engagement on behalf of the municipality for the work identified. But before we can discuss it, I'm going to have to get a mover and a seconder, okay? So, Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Olmsted, could you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution. No, we don't have this resolution. Moved by Councillor Cross and seconded by Councillor Olmsted, that Council accepts the go-forward proposal put forth by Expertise for Municipalities, E4M, and hereby directs the clerk treasurer to sign a letter of engagement on behalf of the municipality for the work identified in this proposal. Any discussion? Councillor Cross.
I do believe that in the report there is a lot of things in there that would be very beneficial to us. I kind of wish that this was something that we did in our first term, not in our last term. The money that's going to be spent is considerable, considering we're probably over budget with a lot of things as it is. With the $1,500 and the travel and accommodations, it may be more. And then when you look at, will the council be getting paid to attend these educational meetings as well? So we're looking at additional monies as well, if that's what's going to happen. Like I said, I wish we would have done this at the first year.
Anything further?
No.
Councillor Maxwell. Your thoughts?
My thoughts. I'm right now. I'm very disappointed in E4M's behavior right now. I think that the fact that they went out and we did a news release in the Nugget stating that we were like children playing in a sandbox. I was very offended by that. I thought it was inappropriate comments to put out in the media. It was also said at the meeting publicly, and I have to agree that I don't think that's the situation at all. E4M seems to be like the relative that comes to a family reunion and stirs the pot, gets everybody fighting, and then leaves again. Then offers to come back and give you counseling. You know, they said that our legacy was that this was going to be our legacy, that we just fought all the time, and I think that they don't realize how hard we've worked and how much accomplishments that we've made in the last almost 3 years now. You know, we've got water to the hall where they said for years water couldn't happen at the hall. We made it happen. You know, that's a big achievement. We made all kinds of hall improvements to the hall. We've got access now so that people in wheelchairs can come in. You know, there's air conditioning now, so if it has to be a cooling center, it can be used in a case of emergency. We did improvements to the ice rink where we got a liner system going. So now that the rink lifetime, the season has been extended because of our actions that we did as council in suggesting some of these things. You know, we cut taxes for the first time in history in a long time in Calvin. I don't know if it's the first time, but it's been a long time. And we have been planning a lot. We've been doing the strategic planning, and we've been working on that diligently. It's not easy with COVID out here and we're having all these Zoom meetings. The process has been slowed down a lot, but I think we've been making a lot of progress in there. And we have to deal with difficult situations sometimes as counselors, but I think we're always mostly respectful to one another, and I think that we act like adults in the chamber room. I mean, I've seen a lot of other council meetings where we can get pretty feisty. So I have to say that that when they label us as being a dysfunctional group, and I think that's just simply not true. There's a lot of comments that they mentioned of what they saw in here. And maybe it's just me, but I don't see us as being the way we've been labeled in this report as well. It says that we have no communication, no community engagement. I don't know, but I think we have lots of community engagement, and it's COVID right now, so of course we're not meeting as a group. But if we were able to, I'm sure we would have a lot of community things going on. And with the no forward thinking, that we apparently don't have any of that. Well, the strategic plan has been a big work, and we've been working on a lot of projects like getting keeping access open to the swimming holes, and working on that project on the swimming hole up at Matterhorn River and at Smith Lake, making sure that we can get access for our residents who have water access only. We've provided access for them by making overnight parking spaces there. So we've been doing a lot of progress, and we still have a lot that we want to do. And so to say we have no vision forward, I think that's totally false. And the negative press that we were getting, well, mostly it's thanks to them that we got this negative press. I mean, it's the reports that have been dividing the township and been picking and choosing to investigate some councils, but not the others. And we get this training, but the employees get one story, and then we get the other story. So we're never together hearing the same story. They're being told one thing, and then we're being told something opposite to them. We're saying they don't have to tell us anything. We're telling them we have to ask for services, what they're providing. It's just creating more friction between our employees and the councillors. We've been trying hard to man that over the years. There's also there's a lot of other things here. I think I probably used up my 5 minutes, but in the end, I'm just not happy with their services, and I think that we really should consider not renewing their contract and look at maybe get some solicitor advice and see if we can get out of their contract, because I find that they've been more detrimental to the township than they have been good, and I really don't want to participate in anything that they have. But of course, being a good counselor, I'll respect the decision of council tonight. And if we decide to go with this training, I'll participate fully. I think that's my rant. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Olmsted.
We have done a lot of good work. We have a complaint policy in place now. We didn't. We do now. So a lot more. Yeah, everything that does it, but we do have a complaint policy. But the fact that E4M stopped all investigations, and this could have cost us a lot more, you know, if we're going between their estimates between $2,000 and $6,000 in investigation, that's how much these investigations have cost and will cost more. I don't know how many are on the docket, but she stopped them. That's a plus in my book. So the $1,500 is a lot less than 2,000 times 5. Perhaps maybe the only council who want to continue on council take this course, so we're not wasting time and energy. But I think this is a lot more a better way to spend our buck than on investigations. That's what I have to say.
Okay. I've heard all your comments and your thoughts. I appreciate them all and respect them all. I can't say that I agree with them all. Okay. We're mandated to have an integrity commissioner. Okay. And whether it be E4M or someone else, there's still someone going to be there. The integrity commissioner we have now doesn't sit offline and wait for somebody to do something wrong so they can pounce on them and do an investigation. Their investigations are requested or reported by perhaps a resident or a staff member or another council member. And then it's their duty to investigate that to see if it's warranted or not. If it isn't, it isn't, but if it is, it's their duty to proceed with that. We have, I'm not sure how much money we've invested so far in the investigations, but I guess that is what it is. I read through this report, and there's a lot of items in here that I agree with, especially the communication one. We talked about communication in while we're doing our clerk treasurer's what do you call it, appraisal, okay, and how we wanted to approve that between council and the staff. We've also had different problems with communication between different departments, say roads. We have disagreement, and we're allowed to have disagreements, but that's what we're here for. We need to have those active discussions and come to conclusions on that. But I think this training would be a benefit to us. So that's a discussion. If it's, I feel really strongly on this that we need this education and this training. And I can't answer. It'll be up to each one of us if we want to get paid to attend it or not. That'll be a decision of council. But I think we should proceed with it. And I feel so strongly about it that I'm willing to put $2,000 towards it out of my pocket. Okay, so it isn't a liability on the municipality. I said last year when I suggested last year that we all maybe could think about not taking wages for a while. So I'd like to take the $2,000 that I took and invest it back into this training because I think it would benefit myself and the rest of council. So it'll be up to you how you decide to do it, but I'm willing to do that if you don't mind. But I'd like to vote on this one and see how we move forward with it. I don't know how that works out. Like, I don't have a problem doing that. I can stop at the office and give it tomorrow, right? But that's how strongly I feel about this. Right? I think I want to work together as a team. I want us to communicate amongst one another. I don't want there to be any negative feelings amongst each other. I don't expect us all to be friends, and I don't expect to go to your place for supper on Saturday or you to come to mine. But I think we need to work as a team, right? So I don't know how we go about that contribution I would make to do it. But I think we need to vote on whether we're going to do this or not first. All right.
I think Tammy wants to comment.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, her hand up.
Worship, thank you very much for your support.
Oh,
and
okay.
I did want to apologize to Councillor Maxwell. When I say playing in the sandbox, it's a term very commonly used by facilitators who try to do team building work around the world, because it's an expectation that we place on each other to put the community first as a priority, or as when they're children, to play in the sandbox well together. So at every stages in life and where we step forward and do work together, we would expect an expectation of civility and kindness. So I didn't mean to imply that anyone was being childish. It's just that's a term we often use when facilitating team building. And this is not really team building, but it is training. And I have read a number of Integrity Commissioner annual reports. And many of them are in the hundreds of thousands and done by lawyers and whatnot. And they have caused such municipal damage. So, you know, we're doing our best, and we thought this was a way to move forward and not cost the community as much. With the COVID restrictions in place, much of this could possibly happen via Zoom. I mean, we may not be permitted to travel, but there's an awful lot we can do via Zoom as a team together and schedule different events and times. So thank you. I'm sorry to interfere.
Thank you for those comments. So I'd like to call this, we had a mover and a seconder on this. I'd like to call this resolution to a vote. Councillor Cross, do you vote to proceed with this training? Yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
No.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we shall engage in this training. I'd like some details on how I can contribute to this, please. Cindy, if you can. Do I just write a check to the municipality, or?
Yeah, I'll contact you tomorrow and we can discuss how.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is bylaw 2021-009. It's a bylaw to enter into an agreement with an office of the fire marshal for training. Okay. So this one here requires. It was in our council package. We all had an opportunity to view it. I don't think this one is as important to do the 3 readings tonight, but I'd like to get 2 readings done at least. So we should have the bylaw that we can do the first and second readings on. Okay, so the first reading, can I get Councillor Maxwell to be a mover for the first reading, please?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Thank you. And 3. And Councillor Cross, could you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have the first reading moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Cross, to establish bylaw to authorize an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal and the Corporation Municipality of Calvin for the duration of March 31st, 2021 to August 31st, 2021. Any discussion? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call a vote on the first reading of this bylaw.
Cindy.
Hello.
Hi, can I just so that council is aware,
Yes.
if we're going to accept this agreement, you had just mentioned maybe not doing 3 readings. If we're going to accept this and be able to accept the funding, we have to have the agreement back to them by the 27th of April.
Of April? Okay.
Which is our next meeting. So if you don't pass it this meeting, we're going to be late and maybe miss the opportunity. I just wanted council to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we called for discussion. There was none, so I'm going to take a vote on the first reading. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes to proceed with this agreement?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
I vote yes, so the first reading for this agreement is carried. Thank you very much. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for the second reading. So, Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Okay, so is there any discussion on the second reading? We have it moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Cross. Any discussion on this one, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell
No discussion.
and Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call a vote on the second reading to move into this agreement. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so do a mover and a seconder for the third reading then.
Mayor Pennell, just sorry,
Yes.
what was your
I
vote?
vote yes, sorry. I
Yes?
need a, like, electrical shock or something.
We'll just slap.
Yeah. Some kind of slap, ice water.
I have my hand up there. Apparently, I left it.
I got my head down here looking at who's going to move in second and whatever. Okay, so the third reading is in front of us. I'll say the mover or seconder for this. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Olmsted, can you second this one?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the third reading, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Any discussion, Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Thank you. So I'm going to call for a vote on the third reading to authorize this agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Officer of the Fire Marshal and the Corporation Municipality of Calvin for a duration of March 31st to August 31st, 2021, as reported by Committee of the Whole to be read a third time passed in number 2021-009, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed with the seal of the Corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. How would you vote to accept this, Councillor Cross, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this third reading is carried, and this bylaw is completed. Thank you, guys. Okay, and next item on the agenda is the bylaw to approve the changes to District of Nipissing Social Service Administration Board. It's their procedural bylaw and general business bylaw. Kind of like they have to play nice in the sandbox as well, right? From reading through it, that's kind of what I get out of it. So anyway, I need a mover and a seconder for this. So Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please? I guess that's a yes.
Yeah, oh, you didn't hear me?
No.
I said yes.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
maybe it's my computer.
And Councillor Maxwell, can you second it?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Cross, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Whereas the District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board, DNSSAB, has made their annual review of their general business bylaw and their procurement bylaw, and during this review, there have been some suggested changes as per District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board briefing, note B06-21, and it is requested that the regional municipalities endorse these changes. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin fully endorses the proposed changes to the District of Nipissing Social Service Administration Board, General Business and Procedural Bylaw for the year of 2021. So, any discussion on this, Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
No? Okay.
No.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
And Councillor Cross?
No, I just like I mean, it was pretty thorough, and I like the way they decided to bring it back within the year to revisit to see if things weren't working and, you know, tweaked it. I think that would be good for us to maybe look at the same type of procedure with a lot of things that especially the new things that we've brought into place. So, yeah, no, and anything else, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call a vote on this. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to accept this?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no to accept this?
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes as well. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is a report from the clerk treasurer concerning an agreement with Papineau Cameron about Bondi Road and Calvin. There was a document enclosed in our council package concerning that agreement. I guess it's kind of self-explanatory. Is there anything further that needs to be said on this, Cindy?
Just so council is aware, this is just a discussion. This draft bylaw that I provided to council was made up by Papineau Cameron after discussions between the road superintendent, Chris Wally, and myself. We added or amended some things in it. Specifically, we added that essentially anything on our side of the road would be taken care of by us, and anything on their side of the road would be taken care of by them. Like, for instance, culverts that are required for a new driveway, entrance permits, you know, those types of things. Whichever side of the road the request is on, the respective municipality would take care of that. There's never been any kind of agreement between the two municipalities. It's sort of been a verbal agreement for these years. So something else that we're exploring is Papineau Cameron's portion of the road is gravel, and our portion of the road is hard surfacing. So we're not sure if this is going to go over very well, but we figure we might as well ask because there's a price difference between the two. We were also hoping that maybe they would help with the capital costs in terms of maintaining the roads. We would do the same for theirs, so it would, you know, gravel on their portion, but hard surfacing on ours, and clearly ours is going to be more expensive. But that's something else that we've discussed. Chris, is there anything else that you want to add?
Pretty well covers it, but one of the things that we got to consider is when we do locates for culvert entrances, it's very difficult for me to get a entrance permit or a cable locate for an entrance on the Papineau side. I basically have to go through them, or would have to go through Papineau. And this just kind of simplifies it. They take care of their side, we take care of our side, and makes the process a lot simpler.
So are you saying that, let's say we start at Taggart Lake Road there, or whatever you call it, and we go out towards the highway, because we maintain that road, right? And then they go from Taggart Road back farther. So Are you saying that we would have to get Papineau Cameron to do the cable locates if we were going to be working on that stretch of road?
Yeah, well, we have a contractor ID number for the municipality,
Yeah.
and that represents Calvin Township. So when I call for an underground cable locate, it gets kind of complex because I need to do it through Papineau also if it's on their side of the road.
Okay.
And they would have to do the same thing on the south end of Boundary Road for us in the event of an entrance. Plus, the other thing too is the culvert for the entrance on the Papineau side would become an asset of Papineau Cameron, and the culvert on our side, on the Calvin side, would become an asset of the municipality of Calvin. So it doesn't make much sense to me for us to install the culvert on Papineau side, sort of, and it'd be an asset of Papineau Cameron Township.
Okay.
So this kind of simplifies things by drawing a line down the center where the actual boundary is between Papineau and Cameron, and the only variant there would be the hard surface versus the gravel road, and the grading and the calcium may offset or equal each other, and that's a discussion we'll have to have in the negotiation with Papineau Cameron.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Councillor Cross?
No questions.
Councillor Olmsted?
Have you just had a verbal agreement all this time? You guys are pretty amicable, right?
Yes, we just had a verbal agreement so far, but it leaves room for error and questions when it comes to installing a culvert. And what triggered all this was the request for a culvert installation on near the railway tracks on the Papineau side. And we needed clarification. We needed something in writing to say this is our responsibility or this is your responsibility. And that's the purpose of this road agreement.
Yeah, fair. Okay, thanks.
Do you have anything you want to ask, Dan?
No questions.
Okay. Is there anything we need to do further with this? This was just a report, right? So. Okay.
No, there's nothing further at the moment. We'll just go back to Papineau Cameron.
Okay. Fight hard. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a breakdown of the costs per municipality or whatever for the community safety and well-being plan, the split for expenses. We talked about this a little bit at our last meeting, I believe. So I need a mover and a seconder on this. So I got to start another line here. So Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So for this resolution, we have it moved by Councillor Cross, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Be it resolved that the Council Corporation of Calvin agrees to have the associated consulting fees and further costs related to the development of the Community Safety and Well-Being Plan cost shared to the same as the Mattawa and Area Police Service Board, formula being Town of Mattawa 39%, Township Papineau Cameron 23%, Township of Calvin 23%, and the Municipality of Mattawa 15%. Any discussion on this, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion. Well, I do have one. Why is Papineau lower than us? They have twice the population that we do. Any comment?
The same as us.
Yeah, same as us. But per population, they should be higher than us. Anyways, but I'm happy. I accept this the way it is. I'm just curious why we're considered equal when they have a larger population.
I'm not sure. It's probably something. I don't know how the assessment is done on this. If it's a weighted assessment, probably. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Councillor Olmsted, any discussion?
No, the same. No. This is the committee that that Sandy's on, right? Are you on
That
this one,
what?
Sandy? Yep. Yeah, that Sandy's on this one, right? Maybe you can find
Yes, I
out.
am.
Yeah, maybe you can find out, maybe.
They're just following the same percentage that the police board uses.
Oh, okay.
Like Castle
Presented, sir.
Home, we do one way. DSAB is another way. I'm not sure why they picked it was between the clerks, I believe. Well, not the clerks, the Cindy. It was you know who picked it. We weren't there. Because I had the same question
Okay.
for Cindy today.
All right, thanks.
Oh, Cindy's now going to answer. Thank you.
I can find out. I don't know how the split was done, whether it was done by population, whether it was done by weighted assessment, combination. Sometimes they combine two different kinds and take an average of them, those types of things. I'm not sure how this was figured out because this was figured out many years ago. But I can find out how it's calculated and I can report back to council.
Okay.
And it wasn't decided by the clerks. This was a discussion that was had at Community Safety and Wellbeing meeting, as well as a Police Services Board meeting. This was discussed by those two committees. It wasn't discussed by clerks, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to call for a vote on it and see if we proceed or not. So, Councillor Cross, you vote to proceed with this the way it is, yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell
Yes.
and Councillor Olmsted.
Yes.
Okay, I agree, and I think we should proceed this way as well, so I vote yes. But I would like to know how that got decided, the determination for that.
Can I say one thing? I'm getting a lot of noise in my I'm hearing a lot of shuffling papers or something. It's been going on quite all night. I don't know who it is, but
With me.
it sounds like a wind, like you're in the back of a pickup truck talking on a phone or something.
I wish I was. Okay, I've moved my speaker away from my paper, so hopefully that'll quit. If it doesn't, wave or something, okay? All right. So next item on the agenda is the support motion for Nipissing District Homeless and Housing Partnership. So we had a very lengthy resolution in the package, right? Yeah. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read through it or not. And basically, it was a support in principle. It wasn't that we need to contribute anything at this time or anything else. It's just that we support the group and of the homeless people. Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder before we can discuss it. Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And Councillor Maxwell, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So I'll leave this open for discussion. Councillor Cross, do you have anything you'd like to discuss on this one?
No, this was something that we wanted to support.
Yeah. Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted.
No discussion.
Okay. So we call this for a vote then, whether to offer our support or not in principle. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no? Yes? Okay. Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
You're still hearing papers?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay. I thought you were looking at me funny. Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes as well. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a support motion for vaccine distribution for the health units that are still in phase 1. I seen an email today that from Mr. Fideli back to the city of North Bay because they had generated a similar resolution to this, and Mr. Fideli responded as a true politician, and he pointed out that the city of North Bay had actually received more than their allotment compared to other areas, and he agreed with needing to do that, but just wanted to make them aware that, you know, like you're not that far behind really, right? So anyway, so this was brought up at our last meeting. We thought that we would continue and agree with it and move forward with it. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this. So Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this one, Councillor Cross?
Yeah, personal experience I found very odd was 2 weeks ago, I took my mother-in-law in for her shot here in Mattawa. And then I went to arrange for Margaret's shot, and it has to be done in North Bay. They're not doing it in Mattawa anymore. I found that kind of, and they were saying that the clinic in Mattawa was excellent, well run, well organized. So now North Bay, which makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's like they've changed that, but maybe with not enough vaccines up here, I'm not sure.
Oh, Cindy wants to say something.
Yeah, Cindy?
Sorry, just to clarify that, I do attend meetings, weekly meetings, every Friday morning with the health unit. The reason that's happening is because of the amount of vaccinations that are coming in. The past little while, unfortunately, they've asked for a certain amount and they get approximately half of what they've asked for. They do plan on having more vaccination clinics in Mattawa, but unfortunately it's due to the amount of vaccination doses that they're receiving. That's why they're holding limited clinics.
Okay. Interesting.
Anything you'd like to contribute, Councillor Maxwell?
No, other than the situation's fluid and it may be outdated, this resolution right now. I mean, I think they're doing their best that they can do with the situation we're in.
Yeah.
But nothing else to add. I'll support it the way it is.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, same. But
Okay.
my last aunt gets her shot tomorrow, so then if all the sisters had their first shot.
Okay, good. So I'll call for a vote on this one. Councillor Cross, do you vote to move ahead with this resolution?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, I believe you said yes.
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried. Paper moving. All right. Next item on the agenda was the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority 2021 Ask contribution. And we have a resolution in front of us about that. They've asked the municipality to contribute $728 towards the capital assets associated with the Laurentian Ski Hill. So anyway, to discuss that, we'll need to have a mover and a seconder. So Councillor Homestead, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second it?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Cross that the municipality of Calvin will not be providing the asked contribution of $728 towards funding for the Capital Asset Association with the Laurentian Ski Hill and Snowboarding Club for the North Bay Madawatt Conservation Authority 2021 budget. Any discussion? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
What was the money for again? What were they doing? Just curious as to, is this going to impact them negatively if by us not contributing to this? Is this going to cause some project to fail, or?
No, they asked us every year to support the asset for the Laurentian Ski Hill. And
we
I
say
think
no
we
every
did
year?
it. Pardon me?
Do we say no every year? Is that a kind of a thing?
In North Bay, yeah.
Okay.
It's like, in my humble opinion, it should be, if anybody, should be the city of North Bay doing this. They have more to gain than what we do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Councilor Maxwell?
No, I thought Cindy had her hand up, but maybe she was just.
I do. I just didn't want to interrupt Councillor Olmsted or Councillor Maxwell.
Okay. You have something to say, Cindy?
Well, I just was going to provide further explanation. For the past few years, we have not supported this. The reason being, we felt most of the people in our community use the Matawan Ski Hill versus driving to North Bay. So we didn't feel it necessary to give them the extra funds for the Laurentian Ski Hill versus the Matawan one. I'm done.
Thank you. Councillor Olmsted?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote. And the vote will be to, do you agree not to provide the $728 contribution? Councillor Cross, you vote to
Yes.
not, yes, to not supply it, right? And Councillor Maxwell,
Yes.
okay, and Councillor Olmsted.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried, and that contribution will not be provided. Thank you. Carbon tax. Oh yeah, this was on our last meeting, one of the items that we wanted to support. It was for agriculture. I've seen some letters further on tonight. There's also some other people are looking at that as well. So I need a mover and a seconder for this one, please. So Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second it, please?
Yes.
Thank you. We have this resolution moved by Councillor Olmsted and seconded by Councillor Cross that the Council of Corporation Municipality of Calvin supports the Norfolk County Agricultural Advisory Board letter dated December 20, 2020 regarding the application of carbon tax on primary agriculture producers, and that this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, the Honourable Vic Fedeli, MPP, and circulated to all municipalities in Ontario. Any discussion on this? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
And Councillor Olmsted.
No discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote on whether to proceed with this resolution. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to proceed?
I
I
hear you.
said yes.
Okay.
Something must be wrong with my computer tonight, because, yeah.
I thought it might be just. Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
That's a good one. I can see that one. And Councillor Olmsted, yes or no?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried. Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is a report from the clerk treasurer. It's a report, 2021 CT20 report to council emergency control group meeting summary. And this was our recent meeting. Everyone had a chance to look through that. Is there any questions by anyone? Councillor Cross?
No questions.
Councillor Maxwell?
No questions.
And Councillor Olmsted?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. And next item on the agenda is a bylaw 2021-011. It's a road use agreement with Matthew and Tara Bridgen. Bridgen? Okay.
Bridgen.
When I looked at the map, I couldn't really determine where this was. But it's been determined it's down on Homestead, right? I think it's a road allowance that goes through and comes out of Donald's Road.
Number 10, looks like.
Is that correct?
It came
Cindy?
to us a year ago.
It's right across from Stewart's Road.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. So this is, I need a mover and a seconder for the first reading on this. And this allows them to do work on the road, building a driveway basically into their lot, all right? So I'll need a mover and a seconder on this. Okay, so Councillor Olmsted, can you move this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And Councillor Maxwell, can you second this one, please?
Yes, Ken.
Thank you. So the first reading, a bylaw to authorize a road use agreement between Matthew and Tara Brigden and the Corporation of Calvin to be read a first time. Is there any discussion required on this, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
I think this gentleman, we talked to this gentleman, was he at one of the council meetings, I believe? He was talking about,
Yep.
there is the old number 10 that we decided was not a forest road. The end of it curves down, so that's why it's going up over the rocks here to make his own way. Yeah, it's too bad the road isn't usable, the forest road in there, because it would be a lot easier than going over top of that rock pile, but I guess that's what he wants. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote on the first reading. So Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no to move into this agreement?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes, I do.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we'll move on to the second reading. And Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one?
Yes, Ken.
Thank you. And Councillor Olmsted, can you second it, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So the second reading of the same bylaw to authorize a road use agreement between Matthew and Tara Brigden and the Corporation of South Calvin. Is there any discussion on this one, Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
And Councillor Maxwell?
The only thing I'm questioning about is we're saying a road use agreement, but there is no road there. So are we just saying, is that correct? Is that properly worded? Like,
I
where
think
is-
it's a
is
road allowance.
See
Yeah.
road allowance? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Cindy?
He's going to be building, he's going to be using our road allowance, and he's going to be building. So he's going to have construction done, have contractors come in and things like that. That's a separate portion of this.
Okay.
This is just to give him the access to be able to use our road allowance.
He's going to be doing work on a road allowance, right? Which we kind of just frowned upon. In an
Not if he
area.
has an agreement with the municipality.
Okay.
It's the same as the one up, across the, what do you call it, Rayan Road? Remember those people had a hunt camp in there, and they went and did some work, and then we went and spoke with them, or Chris did, and got them to sign a road agreement so that they could proceed with the road, with the work on the road. Now, they still have to follow rules and regulations as far as North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority and all that sort of stuff. It's just that gives them the authority to do that.
Okay, I'm fine.
Anything else, Councillor Maxwell?
Nothing else.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted?
Oh, I have no questions.
Okay. So I'm going to call for a vote on the second reading. Do you vote to accept it, yes or no, Councillor Croft?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted?
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes as well. I'm going to take a shot at 3. This guy's probably anxious to get building, right? So I'm going to see if we can move ahead with 3. I need a mover and a seconder to do that. So, Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
Councillor Olmsted, can you second it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the third reading? Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No. No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to call for a vote on the third reading to accept this road agreement with the Brigden family. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this bylaw is now passed, 2021-011. Thank you. Okay. Next item is educational, about cybersecurity. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. It's pretty lengthy. It's just an educational thing if anybody's interested. Then there's R, educational as well. It's resilience and public engagement are key to the future. That's another read. Then after that, we have 7 information letters. So there's quite a few letters. It seems like there's more and more all the time. Was there any in there that anybody thought worthy of consideration, or that required discussion? Councillor Cross.
G1, support for the fire departments. And I'm going to throw this one out there. Election qualifications. Number S.
Support for fire departments, yeah. I think we already
I
did that.
thought we already had to be,
but-
when we signed our thing, I thought we already had to have a clean criminal record. I wasn't sure about that, like I want to talk about it, because I agree with you. But I thought we already had to have a clean record to be on council.
Nope. You just couldn't have had, the only rule is you couldn't have had a criminal offense against the municipal act, I believe. You can have a criminal record for anything but that.
Really?
Makes no
That's
sense.
crazy. I support that.
Yep.
Because I had a question about that, because I mean, I know, I handed in my reference check, so I wanted to make sure, okay. What was the other one you wanted to support, Sandy?
Support for the fire departments for receiving more funding for COVID. I didn't know if that was the thing that we just passed, though.
Yeah.
What was, Dean talked a little bit about that tonight. Was that number G1, Sandy?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you want to support that one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
If
And what was
everybody
the other
thinks
one?
it should be.
That one?
S.
F?
Yes.
S as in Sandy.
Sandy.
The township of Pickle Lake.
Pickle Lake.
That was kind of a, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to support that
I
one as
find
well.
the one thing I definitely find interesting with reading these information letters, not just the information, is the names of some of the townships. They're
I like tiny.
kind of unique.
Yeah. Some townships just have alphabets. They don't have a name. It's just alphabets.
Can we see the ones that we want to support? Cindy, are you able to pull those ones up? The problem is I can't look at them because I only get them electronically, and I have to leave the meeting to go in my file to see them. So that kind of doesn't work. But the Pickle Lake one, is it, how is it worded? I remember seeing it, but it's just a criminal record?
It basically says that we have to hold ourselves to higher standards. There.
Thank you. I don't know. Bit nervous about supporting this. I'm just wondering about something that goes back 20, 30, 40 years ago. You did something when you're, 20, and it comes back on you 40 years later. You could have changed a lot by then.
Well, most people usually get a pardon if it's something that old, or they maybe don't care if they have a record. I'm not sure. I'm thinking more of, criminal records that are pretty.
Federal, being convicted. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like if later on somebody finds out, say, I don't even want to use an example for anybody because that's not good. But I mean, to say for a counselor, they find out later on they did a mass murder or something.
Maybe just a possession of pot. You could have been caught with pot when you're a teenager. And it could be.
It's legal now, so that's different.
Yeah, but you haven't cleared it off.
It wasn't at the time, though, right?
Just like an example.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Can you move it down a little bit so can read the rest of it, please?
And it says serious criminal offense.
Who's to determine that, though?
Yeah, good question. But
Because you had a whole bar fight back when you were a teenager. You know, you're not the same person now. Yeah, I get where Dan's coming from.
That's right. It's just not always the be all end all of a person's good judgment, good character is a criminal record. Often somebody has something in the closet that they trying to forget or something like that.
But you can't apply for a pardon to get it removed from your record, right?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of process that is, but yeah.
Don't know.
Well, it's just to support. It's not actually to adopt this as one of our policies, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we're in agreement to do that. Is that correct? I think so. Everybody's shaking their head, yes?
Yep.
Making faces, yep, okay. All right, so did anybody else have any in there they saw they wanted to discuss, or? Dan, okay, Heather's got her hand shaking there.
I would like to support K1, Town of Paladin, the 3-digit suicide hotline. Because basically there's a 1-800 number and you have to get through a menu. Probably not proficient for somebody who wants to commit suicide.
Yeah, probably not.
No. Press 1 if you're going to do it right now.
Yeah, I would
Press
agree
2 if you're doing it 3. Yeah. So that one I'd like to support.
That sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Councillor Maxwell?
Nothing, no.
No? Okay. Think we've got that all covered then? There was one in there, 01, North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, budget and levies. Okay. So their levy to us was a 4.53% increase. Okay. Maybe I don't understand, but they had a lot of their duties taken away. Okay. So and maybe they had some money taken away because of that. I just didn't understand the relationship between them doing less work and upping our levy. But it's probably just my misunderstanding.
Well, no. I mean, I got that too. But when we get a representative on there, maybe they can find out.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we're all finished with that. So, information letters available. There was one from MPAC. Right? And then after that, there's old or new business. Sandy, do you have anything old or new?
No, I don't.
And Dan, anything old or new?
No, I don't.
Heather, anything old or new?
No.
No? Cindy? No? Okay.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. So next item on the agenda is accounts approval report. So we had one included in our package, and then one got sent out today. So I'll need a mover and a seconder to move forward with this one, please. Councillor Cross, can you move this one, please?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So we have this resolution moved by Councillor Cross, seconded by Councillor Olmsted, that the disbursements dated April 8th, 2021, in the amount of $36,884.11, and April 13th, an amount of $3,976.95, not percent, 95 cents, be hereby authorized and passed for payment. Any discussion? Councillor Cross.
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell.
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted.
Okay, I understand why we sent flowers for Mr. Wally's family, but if we don't do it for everyone, then we shouldn't do it for any. I think it's a favoritism thing, maybe. It can look like that.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your opinion is.
I don't know if we've done it for, I know Chris is our staff. Okay, that was his dad. So as far as I'm concerned, the flowers were for him. I'm not sure if I think we did it in the past for Pauline's husband. I'm not sure about anybody else. Cindy?
Cindy wants to say.
I can tell you, you did it for when my father passed away.
Okay. All right. So it's not a one-time or a one-off, right? It's for staff.
Okay. That's the only question. Thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion on that item?
No, I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate. Probably should have a policy that says that. But I think it's appropriate for any staff that loses a member. We should send our send flowers, send our respects.
Okay. So I'm going to call this resolution to a vote to accept these disbursements. Councillor Cross, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried.
Excuse me.
Paper. Okay. Council approval, closed portion. So it's 9:27. Does anyone need a break?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Short one.
Okay.
Just before we go on break, though, can we do this resolution or this motion, please?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this resolution. This portion of the meeting now be closed under Municipal Act 2001 as per section 239(2)(f). Advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose regarding Stewart's Road. So I'll need a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Maxwell, can you move this one, please?
Yes, Ken.
Thank you. And Councillor Cross, can you second this one, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Any discussion on this before we proceed? Councillor Cross?
No discussion.
Councillor Olmsted?
No discussion.
Councillor Maxwell?
No discussion.
Okay, I'm going to call this to a vote to move into a closed meeting. Councillor Cross, you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And Councillor Olmsted, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So this resolution is carried. Okay, so it's 9:29. Let's call it 9:30. How about we come back at 9:35? That work?
Yes.
Okay. Is that 9:35?
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Can-
Yes, please.
Are we just going to stay on this same Zoom